Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening. This is the big match preview as we gear up for Saturday's big game against Portsmouth at the Valley. Joining me so far to do that, first up and only up at the moment, is Tom Walling. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because I'm back and not been on for a while, or if we've just lost so many games that people are giving up hope. But yeah, it's a bit lonely on here, isn't it? Hopefully somebody else joins soon. But yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to Saturday. Quietly confident, I think. Chance to get back on the wagon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, huge game in SC7 against Pompey at the Valley. 12:30 kickoff again. Don't forget that. Don't turn up late because it's a game that's on Sky TV. We are going to be joined at some point by both Nathan and Mark, but neither of them are here on time as it stands. But we will be joined by them. They both have very good reasons to not be here just yet, but they will be joining us to look ahead to the game. We are going to hear from Nathan Jones, of course, previewing the game. He's got some team news for us, arguably a bit more than he normally gives away today, I think. We're also going to hear about sort of like the recent form and all that sort of stuff, and going into a game against Portsmouth on around the anniversary of our return to the Valley as well. We're going to hear from Hugh Bunce from the PO Forecast, who's going to tell us all about Pompey and how John Massigno's side has been getting on. We've also got a guest joining us from the White Swan Music and Arts campaign, Paul Chapman. They're trying to resurrect that big pub up in the village that I'm sure many of you would have been to before and after games over the years. Been closed for a little while now, so we're going to hear from Paul later on in the show. He's going to tell us about how they are going to try and get that pub back open and what you guys can do to help. We want to hear from you guys as well. Good evening to everyone who is joining us in the chat. Let us know your feelings ahead of Saturday's game. Robert was the first one in there saying, after the 4 losses, I cheered up a bit when Blackburn could only draw against Ipswich on Tuesday, which kept us at 17th place in the league. So yeah, let us know your feelings ahead of Saturday. Who would you like to see start? What changes would you make? How confident are you feeling? You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can head over to the live chat to have your say. Delighted to say that we are now joined by a man who has just returned from the woods. It's Nathan Mother. How you doing, Nate?
Not bad. If anyone, I don't know what you said. So if you said that was dogging, I wasn't. I was getting my car towed away. So I don't trust in either you two. So I've sprinted that last bit.
I hadn't suggested anything, but Nathan's car was stranded in the wood, and there were some very strange stains all over the windscreen. So I'm glad. Oh wow, look at this! I'm being attacked from every side here because Mark Newbury has just joined us as well. How you doing, Mark? You okay?
He's here.
Yeah, I know. No, you couldn't find him in the woods.
15 minutes ago, Mark. I was in the woods waiting for you.
Yeah, Nathan has made it before you did, and you were Nathan's replacement. So there we go. It's quite funny. That's quite funny this has happened. Tom has pointed out in our chat that the last time that Nathan had to sprint to a show, this was when we used to do them live at the Valley. The very first thing I said was "Do not swear," sort of jokingly trying to be Davina McCall, and the very first thing he said was a swear word. So there we go. Right, everyone's here. Excellent. We can look ahead to the Portsmouth game now. Then, Tom, we are going to hear from Nathan Jones in a few moments' time. The chat is full of excitement to see everyone is finally here. But yeah, big game, Tom. Obviously, off the back of 4 defeats now. We've played top 2 sides over the last few weeks. Although I think Stoke are down in 4th now. We've played a Southampton side who are resurgent. We've played a Wrexham side who on our day or might have got a slightly different result there. But the fact is we've lost 4 in a row. And the fact is we're playing a side who are sitting below us in the table, inside the relegation zone, 6 points behind us. I mean, this is a massive, massive game for us on Saturday.
Yeah, we lose this one, and I think the complexion of the league table and how we position this season so far becomes very, very different. And I don't think that's too over the top, but for various reasons, I haven't seen a game since the West Brom win, and saw the Wrexham, or managed to see bits of the Wrexham away game, but wasn't there. Thought, as you say, we could have got something. And then obviously Southampton, particularly that first 20 minutes, just ridiculous. And the Stoke game, similar. You know, you can sort of talk about what happened with the goals, but 2 games where we just lost it immediately and there was no chance of coming back. And then I thought, from what I saw of the Coventry game, I thought actually we looked a little bit more like ourselves. We obviously got ourselves in front. We had chances to go even further in front. And as you guys were saying on Sunday, it shows the impact of Amari Bell and how we can play when we've got our starting 11. But I think when you look at those games, particularly the Stoke, the Southampton and the Coventry games, and where those sides are, albeit Southampton slightly false position, but the run that they're on, and you look at the injuries we've got, to my mind, it is just a period of bad luck. The only thing I pick up on us is maybe the way we set up in the early part against Stoke was strange, particularly after Southampton. To choose to line up like that again was a bit odd. But apart from that, look, he's doing the best he can with what he's got available. And we've seen that on our day, that stuff that's available is enough to beat teams like Ipswich. And so, look, I'm still not worried at this stage. I know we're on a bad run. And as I say, if we were to lose to Portsmouth, when we beat Portsmouth every single time we play them, that's different. But I think if we can get something, you can sort of not wipe the slate clean. You can put that little run behind us and start to kick back on again going into December, which, as we were talking about, we've got some fixtures where we can maybe hope to try and get some points.
We've got some massive games in September. We in December, I should say. We play Pompey twice. We've got Norwich away, of course, on Boxing Day. We've got Oxford at home. Their side's all below us in the table, coupled with a tricky home tie against Middlesbrough on Tuesday, and a difficult away trip up to Birmingham as well. So certainly an interesting month. I think we will know a lot more about us by the end of it, as Sam says in the chat. Massive month ahead. I feel this month will give us some idea of where we might be at the end of the season. Right, let's hear from Nathan Jones in this clip. He addresses the recent form and he gives us some of that all-important team news ahead of Saturday.
There's a lot of things that coincided, you know. The Championships is a wonderful league and it's a brutal league, you know. It's unforgiving in so much of it. You know, we've played 3 out of 4 away games with a real depleted squad, and then coupled with it against some really good sides and some sides with big squads and with that are in good moments themselves. So it's just all come at once, really. But we can't dwell on that. We have to now dust ourselves down and make sure that we stay in the hunt for, one, you know, when we get these players back, 2, when we can strengthen slightly, and then make sure we're in a good enough position that we can go again. And
you said that December's a big month, and you want us to come out of it in a better place. And that's despite obviously a depleted squad, as you said. We've got a further hit at Coventry with Amari and Harvey going off as well. Is there some light at the end of that sort of injury tunnel?
Yeah, there is. And look, someone sent me something the other day, and I mean, this point last year we had just lost to Crawley. There was 11,474 people in the stadium. We were 12th in League One on 22 points after 17 games, and we'd won 1 game in 7. And that's where we were in a year. So I think the Hull Football Club has come, you know, meteorically forward in that year, and that's the kind of second half of the season that we want. We knew that, you know, this time last year, December, we had to stay in there. I think we got to draw away we got some people back in terms of Lloyd and Kane and things. We got to draw away at Lincoln. We beat Northampton, and then we were able to go on and to get everyone back and kick on. And that's the type of thing we have to look to do this year, because as I said, we have been hampered, but look, we're getting people back now. You know, Amari isn't as bad as first thought. Nibs, I said, was just precautionary. Kelman and Burke are really close, and it's just the other ones then that's just Josh and Goddard that we're hampered by.
You brought in Jerome Roussillon to get cover on that left side, and he got some minutes, albeit at a brutal night weather-wise at Dartford. How is he after that experience? Because it was quite a heavy night to play football.
Yeah, look, we probably would have been better off training. He would have got a higher sort of workload intensity, but he hasn't played in a while, so we need him to get just some game minutes, so that when he looks back on his muscle memory, that he goes, I've actually played a football game. Now, we're pleased with how he's training and how he's integrating. He's well behind physically, or was well behind physically when he came to the building sort of 3-4 weeks ago, and now he's far closer, so he now can be, he's in a good enough position to be included in the squad, and then we can build from there.
There we go. That's Nathan giving us some team news ahead of Saturday, Mark. And like I say, he put a few things sort of in perspective. It's funny, actually, in the chat, Isaac was saying we've got to put things in perspective. Look where we were this time last season after the Crawley loss. And then Nathan Jones obviously time travelled, having read that comment, and then decided to say exactly the same thing in his presser earlier on today. But, you know, in terms of the the importance of Saturday, is great with perspective to think about where we have been and where we are now, but that doesn't take away from how important Saturday is for us. That team news, I mean, it sounds promising in that some people might be in a position to be back soon, but maybe doesn't give a great deal away about whether they're going to be available immediately.
Well, yeah, they're a week closer than they were. So it's one of them ones. It's a lot of. It feels like there's a lot of pressure on this Saturday, even though we're saying, it's not really, make or break, but it still feels like there's quite a lot of pressure on this, because I think sometimes it's down to us as fans, the way we perceive Pompey, and we know our record against them. But we know that those records, we're going to go to Millwall and we're going to want to win, regardless of the record. And the pressure, builds up on us. No, don't think there's going to be any kind of like changes to the squad which goes out. I'd be surprised to see Jerome making the squad. And then it's just a case of can we repeat on Saturday the kind of quality bits we did against Coventry? Because there were some really good moves against Coventry, and with some better finishing, we could have actually scored a few more. Can we repeat that to a level? Because I think if doing it against Coventry is one thing, doing it against Pompey is another. Coventry have got a lot more dangerous people who can hurt us, but doesn't mean you can take Pompey lightly. And I've been seeing a lot of social over the last week or so. Everyone saying, "Oh, it's okay, we've got Pompey coming up," like it's a guaranteed. Unfortunately, I'm going to be the glass half empty guy. It's not guaranteed. If we can get to the same kind of levels we started the season with, yes, but we know we're missing players, and I think if we can get through this month, I agree. Someone said in the chat with about 9 points. I'm thinking that's probably an okay December, better than last December's. But I saw today it was about the Crawley thing this time last year, and I think that was the one which I don't think there's anyone sitting here who, after that game, would say, "Oh, it's okay. In a year's time, we'll be in the Championship." No one saw that coming. So,
yeah, definitely not. I mean, I certainly didn't at that time, and yeah, we have come a long way in that time, Nate. The game Saturday, I mentioned to Rich yesterday. Is it a must-win? I'd argue with the month coming up. I mean, I've set a points target of about 8 or 9. And I think from that, you've got to look to beat Pompey at least once and Oxford once, maybe, because we're playing Oxford once, and then you've got away games at Portsmouth and Norwich City on Boxing Day, all sides below us. I mean, I feel like it's quite important to not lose those games, but also you have to try and make some ground here and get that gap back up. A couple of wins, we'll be back in the top half. That's how tight this division is at the moment. But I just don't want it to be. I don't want us to start getting dragged into any conversation. I mean, James was saying, "Are any of you worried about relegation?" Yeah, would a loss on Saturday start the chatter? I mean, I personally haven't been, but obviously, if we start losing those games against sides below us, then you will do. And it has been a struggle with the injuries so far. So we need to find a way to get a result on Saturday.
Yeah, it's different. It's a balancing act, isn't it? I think with the Pompey game, I'm not saying I'm not confident, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Because I remember the Sheffield Wednesday game, people were saying we were going to smash them 5 and 6, and obviously that was never going to happen. Pompey aren't a bad side; they're on a bit of bad form, just like we are. If it's a must-win, well, in the Championship and where we are in the pecking order and the hierarchy of the Championship, I think you have to win all your home games, all bar a couple of obviously the big teams. If you're going to have any chance of staying up. So your home games are always important. The away ones, you can sort of try and nick one here and there. But it's difficult. But like you say, looking at the fixtures, it's an important game. And we're playing teams in and around us. But for me, I'm just, I know it's boring, but I'm just trying not to get, like we weren't, we was having a bit of fun at the beginning when we were doing well. We didn't get too carried away, but we're not going to get carried now that we've lost 4 against 3 very good teams. And I didn't include Wrexham in that, but 3 very good teams. Let's have it right. I know Southampton were coming into form now that Will Steele's gone, but we still need to, for me, keep the perspective as let's remember where we've come from, as Nathan said, where everyone would have taken 20th place at the beginning of the season. And if we didn't have the start that we had and we were middling around 14th, 15th so far, I don't think the we would be as concerned as some people are. But, that's each to their own. But I think just focus on Saturday and just take a game at a time. As soon as we start looking too far ahead, trying to do, we'll get, points per game. If you do it in blocks like I do, then I just find it easier because then I don't put as much pressure on myself and make myself fuming every Saturday night. So that's what I do. But it's a big game for sure. But I'm not going to be like, oh dear, we could be going back down after the first week in December.
Yeah, Robert says we need a minimum of 9 points this month. But like I say, we heard some inklings of the team news there. Bernie saying it's not a must-win, but it's definitely a must-not-lose. We heard an inkling of the team news there. So maybe Harvey Nibbs, he said, was precautionary. Thompson, maybe there's a chance he's involved. Amari, not as bad as we feared, but whether that means he's fit enough to play on Saturday, we won't know until 11:15 when the team news comes out. But I mean, with what we may or may not have available, are you thinking on Saturday up at Coventry, he tried to change formation at the start of the back four and it was working perfectly until Amari had to go off. I mean, do you think it could be a change in shape again this weekend, or sticking with that one that worked early on and then he had to shift everything and things moved? Which way would you try and attack this game on Saturday?
I don't know enough about how Pompey played to know what setup will react best to that. But I was pleased that he tried something different at Coventry and he was prepared to be flexible, because that's one of the things we've spoken about in the past about maybe he's not prepared to do that as much. I think if Amari Bell isn't fit, then I don't know what that means. And I'd be surprised if he starts based on what he's saying. I know he's saying it's not as bad as he first thought, but like you say, what's the point in risking him? I don't think it's worth it. Of course, we need to win these games, but you just don't want him to then be out for a month or two. To be honest, I don't know. And like I say, I haven't seen enough of the recent games, sadly, to know too much. But what I like is the ability that we have to be flexible, even within the confines of having the players out that we have. I think with the 5-3-2, when we haven't got the natural fullbacks, the risk is that you're having to play people like Apter, who he's obviously trying to avoid playing there, or TC, or somebody out there that's so attacking and just playing out of position that it just makes it very, very difficult, where we probably do have the defensive ability or the defensive personnel to play a more traditional four at the back. And so if that's the case, if those injuries still dictate that, then like you say, look, it was working for the early part of Coventry, so I prefer to go with that. And as I say, maybe his hand will be forced and that's what he's going to have to do.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Paul says, evening everyone, Pompey will be a challenge, but I'm sure the lads will notice a drop-off in quality compared to our previous 3 promotion contending opponents. I mean, we do have to take that into account, Mark. I mean, Pompey ain't been great. Like I said, we're going to hear from Hugh later on in the show. But this is, we do have to see this as a chance. They'll be looking at us as a chance as well, a side that's not been on great form, for various reasons, but we have lost our last 4. But the fact is, we're not playing Coventry this weekend. We're playing a side that's down the bottom end of the table, and therefore we have to try and make sure that we take advantage of that.
Oh no, totally. I mean, fast start, keep it tight, don't concede stupid goals in the first 5 minutes, and I think our quality would wear down theirs. And you're right, they have been struggling, Pompey, and they've had the odd win here or there. But there's, from listening to some of their fans, they're not happy. They're saying they've got injuries as well. They've got people who are coming back, so they've struggled. And you got to think they've only been up for they went up the season before, didn't they? I think season before us. So they're still bedding themselves back into the Championship. So we've got to look, say, what are they doing? Can we do that, but to a better quality, so we can become re-established as a consistent Championship club now, and not be one of these ones who are looking over your shoulders. And I think there's maybe 15 clubs in that league who are decent Championship sides who aren't really going to worry about going up, aren't really going to worry down. And you say, well, there's no motivation. But I think with the money coming into the game in the Championship, it gives you something to build on. I mean, I think our owners would have had some kind of plan, and I don't think possibly promotion in their first season in charge was there. So we're probably ahead of a curve now. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, well, especially with the history between the clubs and the closeness of the date, as well. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere because, you know, I do like Pompey. I think their fans are brilliant. I think they always bring a decent atmosphere. You know, they don't generally bark on their own team too much. They're normally, come on, let's try and get this and G them up, as opposed to some of the teams like Birmingham, whereas, you know, they start losing, they start getting a bit snotty and ratty. I always think fans are always kind of like an enthusiastic, trying to drag their players on, which I think, you know, we are to some extent. So until we're being topped 5-1.
Well, hopefully I won't be doing that this Saturday. Right, so John says if Bell isn't fit, then we need to go for a back four with Ramsey at left back. Bernie says we need to play a back three, as if Gillespie has to play left back in a back four. He lacks the pace. So a couple of votes for Gillespie not being left back there, but in different shapes. Nath, I mean, which way would you attack it? I'm kind of interested as to how it would work up front again, because the first half an hour, again, with the back four, and then I felt it was Tanto on his own up top with TC sort of behind him last weekend, along with, was it Nibs in the 10? And then I felt Bree was really far advanced on the right-hand side last week. So that kind of worked. But then when things had to shift, when Bell had to go off, and then Leeburn was the striker and Tanto dropped back a bit, I just didn't think that worked as well. So when I always say that you're one of the most tactically aware of all of us, Nath. Like, do you have a sort of a vision as to how this might actually work?
I mean, in terms of Gillespie, I think he has to play because Portsmouth have the most crosses per game and the most long balls per game out of anyone in the division. So it's going to be a slogfest. Whether or not you put him as a, I don't know who said it. Was it Bernie who said it? I mean, putting Gillespie as a left back. You sort of saw that a little bit with when we played Southampton, when we went high, when Hernandez was high, Apta was high, and he was 1-on-1, and there was just going to be one winner. And then he's exposed, which leads to Jones jumping out, and then you had all the space in behind. So it wouldn't surprise me if we play a back three. Who we play at wing back, we'll never know. See who's closer to fitness or whatever. But I would go with a back three and Macron and go in there, because if you're going to have to deal with a lot of aerial balls and crosses, you're going to need three big centre halves for me. I don't think you can go with a two and drop Macca or put Macca at left back. I just think you just limit yourself. But I don't know. It all depends on who's fit or not, doesn't it, really? But I agree with Mark. You know, Pompey are good fans, and just because, you know, they're down there, it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch. It's no easy team. The worst team is Sheffield Wednesday, and it's not like we pumped them, was it? So it's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be a test. I think they play very similar to us, very physical. Very get the ball quickly, not long ball merchants, but they get the ball, play off the second ball. So I think it's be quite a tight, cagey affair, I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be a fascinating game. Sam saying he'd like to see Tanto and TC play up top. Jay saying Jones and Ramsey, with Ramsey left at wing back and Bree right wing back. We've got Ramsey playing twice there. But Tom, strikers, Tom, which way do you see that going?
I kind of like the idea of TC and Tanto. I think I keep coming back to, and obviously I haven't been on the pod for a couple of weeks, but even just listening to it or whatever and thinking about games, I just miss Kelman. Like, even with just the one goal he's got, I just miss him. And I think the more that this goes on, the more you see the impact that he has on games. And obviously with him not around, and I listened to the pod when obviously Leeburn, the feedback on Leeburn hasn't been great. You know, I've not seen anything different to disagree with that either. It kind of just leaves you with those two, doesn't it? At the moment, with Godden obviously being pushed back a little bit as well. I've seen I saw some stuff in the chat earlier about Mika and Bick and Carnu. For me, just leave them where they are. There's no guarantee they're going to be able to do it in the Championship by coming back. And the fact they're on good form is brilliant for us, but they're not for today. So I think maybe it has to be those two. It goes back to the comments you were saying, I think, on Sunday's pod about how opposition fans see TC. You know, I know he frustrates us, and I just think he needs a goal, but people are scared of him, and on his day he's got pace, and Tanto the same. He can bully players. Miles should be able to do it, but maybe hasn't done it in the same way. So I think it could be those two. But I think everything the three of us are saying, really, to go back to the question you asked me last time and the other boys about how we set up, for me it comes down to just the energy and the pressing and all those basics, going back to what Nathan Jones would say as well, irrespective of formation, I think if what looks like it's been lacking in those other games, particularly where we're getting picked off, is we're just slow and we're second to things and we're not pressing as a unit. If we do those things right, that's what will win us the game. Particularly as Nate says, because it's going to be a bit of a slog and it's going to be a hard game to play, which I totally agree with. So I think if we can get that right, we've got a chance. And I don't think TC is necessarily cut out for a game like that, but then neither's Miles at the moment. So again, it's a bit of a selection headache, which is weird because maybe a month ago we were talking about positive selection headaches for Nathan, and 6 weeks on, 4 or 5 weeks on, we're talking about it being a real challenge to know who to pick.
Yeah, I mean, injuries haven't helped there, but obviously there's areas of the side that overall, you want a little bit of improvement as well. Mickey's saying, evening all, last month was always going to be tough. Heads up and move on. December could end up being completely the opposite. And I sort of agreed with what Sam said earlier. Like we'll know a lot more about where we're going to be after this month mark. I think that's quite typical of a lot of seasons. Everyone always talks about the Christmas period. I think, I remember onto the Appleton season, particularly when we lost at Leyton Orient on Boxing Day. I think if anyone, and then went and lost at Bristol Rovers a couple of days after when Chris Martin scored right at the end. I think if anyone was under any illusions as to where we were going that season, we knew pretty well after that we were in a bit of trouble and we had to come out of that. But yeah, I mean, the size of this month for us, I don't think it can be underestimated. You play a lot of games in this time, but I've spoken a lot about the fixture computer and how it's been harsh to us over the last couple of weeks. In terms of, obviously, we've had to play some good teams. Obviously, we're going to play them at some point. It's felt like, you could argue that if you're gonna play teams and lose because you've had injuries, you might as well play the ones at the top. But we still have some of those injuries, and now we are going into a very big month.
Yeah, I mean, again, it all just comes down to how we'll deal with it. Not picking up any silly suspensions, because isn't Coventry's on one booking away from a suspension? So I'm not sure when that wipes out or rolls on.
It's literally after this game, yeah. So it's after
this game. So
Connor Coventry, if he gets booked on Saturday, he gets a 1-match ban. If he doesn't,
straight away, does he miss Borough?
Yeah, but if he doesn't get booked, then he'll have 5 extra yellow cards to go up to 10, but it would have to be within about 30 something games.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have him miss Borough and be back for Birmingham, if that makes a bit more sense, because I just think Borough, I know they've been getting some results, but when I've seen them, they are quite a flaky side, even though they know the score, and they were probably a bit unlucky last week at Birmingham. But it's one of those ones. You're right. We've faced some decent teams, and probably Birmingham are the best out of the ones we're going to be facing. And the Oxfords, for Norwiches, for Portsmouths, they are the teams. Why can't we be ones to put a nail in their coffin as well? I think if you look at it honestly, it's 2 relegation spots, because with Wednesday's extra deduction of points, there's two spaces to fill now. And so I just think, like I say, but what you don't want to do is start putting too much pressure on yourself, which is what I just said. I mean, you talked about the Christmas we had, where I remember doing the show when we had the 5 games coming up, not last season, the season before. And we were saying, well, if we can get sort of like 12 points and then we were losing, then maybe we get, and we didn't get a single point, if I remember rightly, over that time. And like Jones has said, if we can get to know January, and we can then bring in maybe a couple more signings. And I slightly agree with someone in the chat who said, why are you getting someone who, even though he's a quality player, who has 0 fitness, and you've only given him a contract to January? It seems a bit odd, in my book, because there are other players who are out of contract at the moment who you could pick up, who possibly might be a little bit fitter.
Well, I mean, I think if there were, then we would have. I mean, I think people always get carried away with the players out of squads at the moment. I often think they're going to be they're never going to be fit, and that seems to be the case with Roussillon. But I mean, I think Nathan said he'll be in the squad he's already have a chance of being in the squad. So we'll see. Anyway, right, we need to go to a break because Hugh's waiting in the waiting room, so we can look ahead to the Portsmouth game after we hear from our sponsors.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barrett Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Let's start to look ahead to our home game, I should say, with Pompey at the Valley. That'd be embarrassing if I turned up down at Fratton Park, just because I do enjoy going there because we always come home with 3 points. But no, it's a home game on Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. Delighted to say that we're going to be joined now by Hugh from the PO4 cast. Good evening again, Hugh. How you doing?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us on, guys. Looking forward to the game, I suppose.
yeah. Well, I'm sure you are. But what can you tell us about Portsmouth's start to the season? So, I mean, I obviously had a chat with you last night, so I have a good feeling about how you and your mates have been feeling about this campaign. But you sat in the relegation zone, only 6 points behind us. But how would you assess your start to the campaign?
It's pretty bleak at this moment in time, really, down in PO4. There's lots of pressure on what's going on in the situation, and it really comes down to the fact that we can't score goals, really. 0.8 goals so far per match, and it's not just that. It's sort of a little bit deeper than that, really, because you've got a situation where last season it wasn't working. We tried to play a possession style of football, and Mousinho came up mid-season in November, and he just changed it. We had Colby Bishop came back into the team. It was a bit of a catalyst, and we were able to play this kind of very front-footed, high-pressing football. I mean, in fact, I think only Leeds turned over the ball more in the final third than us last season. We're rock solid at home. And then this season, we've just got a complete lack of any sort of playing style. We're not really pressing from the front, not quite sure what we're doing. And to be honest, it's a lot of things are going wrong. And I think some fans are looking to get some sort of change, but it's difficult to pinpoint down, exactly what's really gone wrong down at Fratton Park.
Hugh, we've been talking a lot in the first part of this pod about how we're going to set up, because we tend to play with 5 at the back, but we've got injuries, and we tried a 4 at the back at the weekend against Coventry, which worked up to a point. So we've obviously got our own headache around how we select that. But thinking about how you set up, I'm interested, has that been consistent? And if so, how are you tending to set up sort of formation-wise this season? And that might help us. Obviously, we're thinking about how we might set up to counter that, I guess.
I mean, it's quite a contentious issue, but we basically play a 4-2-3-1. That's our main formation. That's how we set up, and that's what's had success for us. That's what's got us promoted, as champions out of League One, and that's what kept us up last season. But because it's not working, and because we've had lots of injuries as well, especially for key players at the back and stuff, we have flirted with playing with wing backs. It didn't really work, if I'm honest, and I think Mousinho probably will revert back to the favoured, 4-2-3-1 with 2 sort of fairly slowish sort of, holding midfielders. We've got a lot of creative midfielders in theory, a lot of number 10s, and we're not really finding a way of fitting those players into the system. So it kind of feels a little bit moment like, round peg, square, holes, whatever you say. I think it's the other way around. But at this moment in time, that is the setup. We're going to play a 4-2-3-1. And I can't see him changing it. Although I would like to see him potentially against you guys play a 4-3-3. We're getting run through in midfield at the moment. There's so much space to play through us at this moment in time. I reckon we should drop the number 10, even though we've got 3, and potentially have a think about maybe putting an extra man in midfield, making us hard to play against, and then maybe letting you have a bit more of the ball, which isn't usually your game.
Hello, mate. Yeah, you've touched on the goals already. I was going to ask, because I think it's only Sheffield Wednesday have scored less than Pompey, I think. But I'm not saying that we're a Coventry by any stretch, by the way. But it's just interesting when you say that John Mousinho sort of went from the possession base, because obviously you've got Callum Lang and one of the Murphy brothers. I can't remember which one it was, but you've got one of those who are very good. Yeah, that's it. You've got very, very good at this level. But then you've got obviously your striker Colby Bishop, who I wouldn't say he's not, for me, he's not an archetypal number 9, and you obviously get a lot of balls into the box. So probably, I was just wondering if he does go away to that 4-3-3, who would you drop out of those 10s? Because you've got that, I can't pronounce his name, Segatic, is it, in there or something? I can't remember how you say his name.
We can just call him Sega. That's easier.
There you go. That's a lot easier.
Sega. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I don't think he will, by the way, go away from the 4-2-3-1. I'm just sort of floating an idea here. I think he'll probably start with the 4-2-3-1, and that will basically line up with Murphy on the left-hand side, who's pretty much our own consistent creative outlet. I mean, he's got like a Premier League style delivery. He's absolute class. And then in the centre, you think maybe he goes with Segacic, or and then Lang as well. That's probably the diamond 3 if you think about it. And Callum Lang is only just coming back from injury though. He's a pretty serious injury. He had to have surgery on it, so he's not quite at full pace at this moment in time. Really, I don't know if he'll play 90 minutes or he'll play 70 and get rotated. If you drop one of them, it's difficult. You probably. See, I would actually think about this, that potentially at the moment Bishop needs a rest. Maybe play Callum Lang up front. Maybe you stretch teams that way, because Bishop's coming so deep. I don't know if you guys remember with Harry Kane in the Euros, and Bishop's not Harry Kane, but he comes to collect the ball so deep and he wasn't then getting in the box to score goals. And Bishop's not putting himself in positions to score goals a lot at the moment in time. So, yeah, I think maybe he's the one you actually do drop and you actually push Callum Lang forward. That's my personal preference maybe now.
Hey Hugh, I was very complimentary earlier about Portsmouth fans, because I'd said that you're always bringing atmosphere and you're always not a set of moaning fans, you're more an encouraging set of fans. But you just touched on what you said earlier. You said there's been sort of like rumblings of discontent about your manager. Do you think it would be one of those ones where he only got a certain amount of games left of goodwill before it'd be changed? Or do you think it's a case of they're going to say, look, we know you've got injuries, when we get players back, we can make a charge up the table and look at it that way? Or do you think the owners would go, right, we've got to change it quick because we've got a transfer window coming up and we can't afford to go down again?
It's an interesting question. What I'd say is that our owners are very, very, very patient, to a level of sort of pedestrianly patient. I remember even before we had Kenny Jackett, the fans wanted him gone for years, and then they kept hold of him. In fact, last season, you look at us, we were doing really bad at the start of the season, and it was only the second half of the season that we sort of kicked on and started playing well. And instead of maybe looking at what other teams were firing the manager around us, our owners came out and gave him a new contract. So I don't necessarily think that he's on the block in the level that some fans might think. But personally speaking, there's a lot more going wrong at Portsmouth than the manager. There's issues with recruitment not going well. Out of all our summer signings, for instance, only one of them really in Segacic is properly starting, and maybe Josh Knipe, that's only through injury. So it's recruitment, poor planning, not being able to score goals. It's a lot higher than John Messina. I feel like he's not necessarily got the tools at his disposal right now, and we don't have the quality in the playing squad. Rather than, yes, he's making some tactical decisions that are a bit questionable, but at this moment in time, personally speaking, I think you can only do what you're given, and that's the problem.
Just finally then, Hugh, obviously as a side that came up and the season before last and stayed up last year, we're a newly promoted side. I mean, what did you learn about the Championship last year, and what was it that Portsmouth were able to adapt in order to stay up? Because they did have that bad start last term, as you said.
What I'd say is we had really good home form in that situation, but it was also just playing that football that, we go back 5 years, everyone was trying to ticky-tacky, pass it around and stuff like that. And I think now if you can get you can play the big teams, like us doing well against Leeds at home and things like that, where you step into them, you play a little bit more direct, you press from the front, you win those second balls up high, you take a little bit of a gamble with your defensive line in that situation. You can rattle teams at this level if you play a really, really structured, sort of intense style of football. And from what I've seen for you guys, you're actually sort of taking that model on quite well. So I would say personally that keep doing what you're doing from a level of structure, and it seems like it will pay off.
Excellent stuff, Hugh. Thanks for your time this evening. If you want to tell everyone where they can check you guys out as well quickly.
Yeah. So our podcast is called the PO Forecast. We do it for someone called Pompey News Now. You just type in PO Forecast wherever. It's not great for analytics because you type in PO Forecast and it says, "Do you mean podcast?" Didn't think of that at the time. But apart from that, yeah, go check it out. And we had Louis on our podcast as well.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who deals with accounts, just hearing the word forecast sends me into a cold sweat. But no, great to hear from you, Hugh. Thanks for your time this evening. All the best for the rest of the season after Saturday. There we go. That's Hugh from the PO Forecast. Right, let's move straight on to our next guest as well. Now, delighted to say that we're joined by Paul Chapman, who is from the White Swan Music and Arts charity, which is a campaign which is looking to resurrect the White Swan pub up in the Charlton village. Paul, welcome to Charlton Live. Obviously, a pub that many of us have drunk in before and after games over the years. Why don't you just give us a little flavour of what the campaign's all about?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Louis. Thanks for having me on. So what we're trying to do, we're a group of local people who are trying to basically buy the pub. That's the idea. So we own the building and then we'll lease the pub back to people who actually know what they're doing, because I can't run a pub, but I can lease it to people who know what they're doing. They will run it, and then the income from what they're doing, the idea is that would be a small income for the charity to do some really exciting stuff around music and arts for local people and young people. I don't know when the last time any of you saw the White Swan was, but I mean, it's looking a really sorry state these days in the middle of the village, and very sad to see. And it'd just be great to bring a beautiful building and what was a fantastic proper pub back into community ownership.
Yeah, and obviously it would be important for the community as such, but obviously the majority of Charlton fans don't live there, but a lot of people like to use that on a match day as well. So it'd be nice to try and resurrect the pub for people who would be there in SE7 before a game. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've been here. I mean, I wasn't born in Charlton, but I've been here long enough to remember when there was so many more pubs around on a match day, you know, part of the experience, you know. I mean, we've only just, the Anchor and Hope's only just closed, hasn't it? But we used to have the Horse and Groom. There used to be the Anti-Gallicum for the away fans. You know, there was so many more. I'm going to kick myself. There'll be about 3 more I'll remember as soon as I stop talking. But, you know, we're currently down to what? The Royal Oak and the Bugle, maybe the Denmark. River Ale House is great, but it's out towards East Greenwich. And, you know, it's really great for, you know, I'm not looking the club's match day offering, which is also really good. But it's really nice for families and fans to be able to meet up before games, after games, have different options instead of just thinking, right, how quickly can I get out of Charlton and go somewhere else, you know.
Excellent. So I've just put the link in the live chat, but if you just want to explain sort of what your target is and how people can support, whether that's by sort of joining you to sign up to something or whether it's just by donating money towards the cause.
Yeah, so those are both good options. So I mean, the first thing I'd say then probably is go to visit our website, which is the link you just put in the chat. So that's whiteswanmusicandarts.org. Once you're there, then really you've got everything you need, which is you can follow us on all the socials, find out what we're doing that way. You can read more about the plan, you know, get better details than an idiot like me could ever give you. And also you'll have a link to our crowdfunder page. And in fact, if you go to the crowdfunder page, even if you're not thinking about donating yet, or you're still, you know, on the fence, still worth going, because we've got a great launch video, which includes a talking Clive Mendonca, which I hope will intrigue a few of you.
Yeah, I watched that just before we came on, actually. Yeah, it was really clever. That you can do anything with AI these days, can't you? Paul, thanks for coming on. Good luck with your campaign. I'm always up for seeing more pubs in Charlton, so I hope it goes well. Cheers, Paul.
Great stuff.
There we go. That's Paul Chapman from the White Swan Music and Arts charity. Right, let's look ahead to Saturday again. I've got a little bit more here from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. He gave us a little bit of team news earlier on, but actually let's hear him look ahead to the game as well and what is an important anniversary sort of week for the club.
It's going to be huge on so many levels on Saturday. Obviously, the result is key, of course, but it's the 33rd anniversary of the return to the Valley, and it'll be the same opponents as that day in '92. Do you have to keep the players away from those type of emotions to focus on the game, or do you harness that
well, with any motivation to play, we can give the players, we'll give them. Look, it'll be a special occasion. Coming back to the Valley is a wonderful thing, and the irony in terms of us playing Portsmouth as well in terms of does that. But, you know, the big thing is we have to get back to winning ways. You know, we've been very good at the Valley. We were pulled apart against Southampton in the last game in a tough fixture. And we have to rectify that. That's what we want. We want to get back to normal. We want to get back to the things that we've done best and be the best version of us. And if we are, then that's all we can concentrate on. Everything else around it, look, you know, God willing, it can be a wonderful occasion on every level.
Well, if you need some help, there's going to be a decent sized crowd again at the Valley. It might be emotional. There'll be a few tears in the eyes, I'm sure, but there'll certainly be the backing there.
Well, look, yeah, and as I said, it's going to take a whole football club once again to come together and get a real positive result. But as you said, this time last year there was just under 11,500 at the Valley. Now we're in a much better position, and as I said, we've asked for patience. Then we asked them to get on board. All we ask them now is just stick with us through this period, this tough. Get with us, because we'll come through this, and when we come through it, we'll be in a far stronger position, because one, we'll get everyone back, so it'll give us greater competition. Plus, what January could bring in the market as well. So, look, we're looking forward, and I said we want everyone to be with us.
There we go, Nathan. I mean, it's a message at the end there to our Nathan, not just to you, but it's all of us. But I'm going to ask you, our Nathan, about it. We really need to change your name, Nathan, if you don't mind. Actually, it's getting very confusing. He's asking for us to stick with him. I think we have overall. I think obviously there was a little bit of shortcut in this after 22 minutes against Southampton, but they've earned it, haven't they, over the course of the last year. You know, as Isaac says, surprised he didn't say about your 2 wins in 11 comment last year. Well, funny enough, it was. I noticed that Pompey are on 1 win in 9 brackets, 2 in 10, aren't they? But we do play a role in this as supporters. Like we can't get too despondent because we've lost 4 games, 3 of which against sides who are flying at the moment in the Championship.
No, of course not. And do you know what? I think the majority of fans aren't. Obviously, they're concerned that we lost 4 games in a row, like any fan would. You know, like it's not a great situation to be in. But I think, and I know he usually, as Isaac said, I know he likes a little dig at you now and again, but we do have to realise that where we've come from, and not in my wildest dreams. Well, that sounds a bit much, doesn't it? But I didn't think we would have started as well as we had. You know, without sounding cheesy about it, but it's not like we were top of the league or anything. But I expected us to be bubbling around 14th to 20th the whole season, getting dragged in a little bit and then getting out of it a little bit. And it's probably we've just been brought back down to earth a little bit, which I think we needed. And it's going to be and this won't be the first. This ain't going to be the first sort of winless run we go on. You know what I mean? It'll probably happen again this year. So I think, yeah, a bit of perspective, which I don't think anyone's getting too emotional over it. But yeah, we have come a long way. But we are here to obviously praise the team when we play really well, and we're also there to criticise them when we don't play so well, not in a personal way, but and that's what we do. That's what we're here to do. Otherwise, it'd be a pretty boring show, wouldn't it? So yeah, it's come a long way, but just got to ride the waves. You know, just don't get too hung up on one result. If we start losing 7, 8, 9, 10, then it's something to be worried about. I think someone said about the relegation. That's when you sort of Christmas time, we're coming into the new year and we ain't won. Then it's something a bit like, well, we've got a big window coming up. And then you're looking at after that. So, yeah, I'm not going to get worried too much. But, James Mooney said, Mess playoffs is lonely. Well, you never know. She might be coming back she might be a little flirtatious. You never know. We said this last year when she went missing. And all of a sudden, she put her glad rags on and she was back ready to go. So, who knows? Who knows, mate?
Might be on a New Year's resolution to look out for Charlton. Isaac says it sounds like you're talking about Charlton being in the woods again, Nath. Don't get him started. He'll get too excited. Liam said, I'd love for us to win every game in December and Louis call it a solid month and then NJ chins him. I got headbutted by my 3-year-old yesterday or the day before, and I'm convinced I've had concussion today because I've had a headache all day and I can feel my face twitching. If anyone in the chat's a doctor and they can diagnose me if I need to go in. But yeah, I bent down to pick her up and she jumped up, took me down. I literally went down clutching my face like I'd just been shot. She definitely would have been booked, or maybe even red card if the referee had been watching. But if he'd gone to VAR, it definitely would have been. He did say more to come in Jan, Tom. I mean, I suspect later on this month we'll start to talk a little bit more about January. But when you're having the injury problems we are, and it's affecting us the way it has, we are going to start having one eye on that January window now, and it will be fascinating to see how we attack that.
Yeah, we've obviously got the debate about what happens with James Bree and whether we can get him permanently. And absolutely right. And we were talking about this a few weeks ago when we were in sort of 7th or 8th, and we were wondering, well, what if we're still here in January? Would we invest? And the same applies if we're down towards the bottom of the table. But objective one, since day one of this season, has been stay up and make sure we're in the Championship again next year. And if that means it requires a little bit more investment, that little bit of investment now is worth so much if it keeps us up compared to not investing and then having to deal with another season back in League One. It'd be another of those unnecessary relegations because, like people have been saying in the chat, I just think there's 3 worse clubs than us in this league, at least. So, yeah, I hope we do strengthen. It's the areas that we need to strengthen, which will be the interesting ones, and whether they're short-term, like this guy that's come in now at left-back, or whether they're sort of permanent signings with a view to what we do next year. So that will be interesting. But, you know, you take strikers as a prime example. We've said most of this season, I think we're quite happy with our striker offering in terms of the 5 players we've got. But when Kelman's out, look at the difference it makes. And we haven't seen Godden at all. And probably, if we are going to see him, it's only going to be very much at the end of the season. So then suddenly you're left with a Leeburn that's not really firing, a TC that, you know, we want to do well but hasn't scored yet, and Tanto who's a bit hit and miss, and suddenly the whole thing's flipped. So, look, I think every team at this stage is thinking about strengthening, and I think it would be naive not to. Because, as we've seen, when there are injuries, although we're better stocked to cope with them than we have been in recent campaigns, there still is more to be done, and there's still players that we could get in that would make a difference. So, yeah, I'd like to think there's some work being done behind the scenes, and Phil Chappell and Jones and that side have got most of those right, haven't they, on the whole? So, yeah, a little top-up would possibly just carry us over the line, push us up the table, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, we will see where we actually are. Don't forget, January the 1st is basically a month away. We're only 4 days into December, and I mean, he said Burke and Kelman aren't far off. You know, it sounds like Godden. You know, you can get more details on Richard Corley's Substack if you signed up to that. But it sounds like Godden's. You know, there were some rumours going around yesterday that it won't be until February, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be as bad as that. Not that I'm thinking. You know, Stuart says, I love Matty Godden, but I don't think you just drop Godden into this side and all of a sudden we're going to storm the division. I think he's going to have to work for his chances like everyone else. But, you know, maybe in a month's time, things will look different and there won't be as much work to do. But we have seen that you need a bit of cover. You know, the players that have gone out on loan that are scoring goals at League 2 level at the moment. Would they be the answer? Don't know. Maybe we try and find out. Who's to know? But we'll see. Right, there's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. First of all, obviously, we've lost over the last week Billy Bonds. Now, it's fair that the wider football world have very much nailed him down as a West Ham hero because he did so much for that club. But you know, the people of our age on the show, all of us won't have seen him play for Charlton. But he did start his career at Charlton. But I do remember when I was at first going down there, Billy Bonds' name was still spoken about as a footballing legend. You know, won the FA Cup a couple of times with West Ham as a captain, but he's from our area, born in Woolwich, and started off with us. And I think someone said he was a Charlton fan as well. But Mark, yeah, I know you wouldn't have seen him play for us, but he is a football legend and one that many listeners to our show may well have seen play back in the day, and if not for us, at least for West Ham.
Well, that's it. I mean, he has such an association with West Ham, like 700 something like games. But he was a 2-club person. He started off with us. So, you know, plenty of games under his belt for Charlton. And like I say, yeah, he was born in Woolwich. I know he lived in Chislehurst because he used to chat to my mum in Sainsbury's when she was working there. And yeah, he's one of those ones who's got a sort of like a legendary status. And if you see old footage of him playing, I say old footage, I mean it's not that long ago, but he was what is known as a thoughtful player. He wasn't your blood and guts. He was a I'm trying to think of the word.
Cultured.
He was cultured. Thank you very much. Yeah, he was a culture player, and I think it hasn't been much about him being, you know, Charlton started. So because obviously his huge association with West Ham, you know, even managing them. But I think, you know, it is one of those sad days in football when you see, because it's all the time now, you're seeing someone who you think I've never heard. You know, he would have been big for that particular club, but Billy Bonds comes up, and I think all of football just went, oh, that's a sad thing to hear, because he was such a legend, you know, during the time we played. So I'd recommend anyone who likes to go back and have a look at a bit of the old, sort of like the 80s football and see how he played. It's worth it, because he would have flourished in a modern game. That kind of ball playing, you know, big guy. So I think, it's to detriment to football that players like that have passed with a lot of people not knowing much about them and seeing what they can actually do.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, Dudley says Billy Bonds was big, strong powerhouse. He should have played for England. Yeah, a lot of people said he's arguably one of the best players who never played for England. And Bernie said, I started watching Charlton in '65 and saw Billy play for nearly 2 seasons. He was the first wing back in the modern era. So yeah, rest in peace to Billy Bonds. Bonzo was his nickname, which is just a quality nickname. You just don't get any nicknames of that high quality anymore as well. But yeah, it's a very sad loss, and like I say, plenty of Charlton fans, couple in the chat already who remember him very, very fondly. Right, from someone that we remember fondly, moving on to someone we arguably don't. Ben has sent an email with the strap line, Lyle the Snake Taylor. It says, evening, Lou, I'd like to make a formal confession. This week, in a moment of weakness or curiosity or self-punishment, I listened to the podcast interview with Lyle Taylor. I'm not saying the experience was traumatic, but let's say I haven't been this conflicted since the last time we took a short corner routine. To be fair, the interview was actually pretty interesting, although every time he said something sensible, the little voice in my head whispered, but yeah, try playing in June, mate. It was like hearing an ex explain why they left, except they left during a relegation battle and still took the Charlton Live mug with them. Have you listened to it, or have you had any interest in doing so? I'm going to lay my cards on the table now and say it's a massive no to both of those. But he says, we all knew the club was in the pickle when the fake shake and that so-and-so Southall were behind the scenes, but does he describe how much? But he does describe how much of a bad place we were in and how good a job Bowyer did under the circumstances. Just wanted to know your thoughts, really, as after listening to him, I can kind of see why he did what he did, but then also remember how I felt when he decided not to play anymore, and I'm back to square one in my forgiveness chart. He says, keep up the good work. That's from Ben. Cheers, Ben. So I ain't listened to it, Nath. I don't know if you have. I think you like that pod, don't you? Overall, like, they have some good guests on it. Ben on our show likes a lot of those. So I'm just reading Mark complaining about some of the ageism in the chat, in our private chat. It's quite funny. Yeah, have you listened to it? What did you make of it? I said on Rich's pod last night, I can understand from a financial point of view why he did it, but it doesn't mean I want to listen to him talk about it over and over and over again personally.
No, yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to it. It's actually on my watch and listen list tomorrow. So every Friday I catch up with all my podcasts and football YouTubes under the Kosh overlap and all that. So that's my Friday day sorted. So I'll be watching it tomorrow. I don't try and get it was unfortunate and I can probably understand both sides, but I try not to think it too much because then it just riles me, and it's like, well, I can't control it now. It's done, it's been there, it's gone. Same as the Scott Parker thing, people get het up on that. I get it. But yeah, it's just one of them things. It was just unfortunate, and I know it was just that we went down, wasn't it? If we didn't go down, we wouldn't be having the conversation. So I get it. But yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow along with the other bits and bobs. I probably will get rolled a little bit, but that's just because I remember us getting relegated when I thought we probably could have stayed up just barely. But yeah, it is a good podcast if anyone else has watched it, but I can't say I've no all hell let loose. I'm not in the woods tomorrow, so stop inviting me to things. Don't know who you are, but buy me a drink first, maybe. But no, so I'm watching it tomorrow, mate. So I'm no doubt I'll put it on the put it in the WhatsApp, and I'll give my honest opinion on that.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's leave it there. We've run out of time on this week's show. There's a couple of comments actually just on Lyle Taylor. Liam says, as if he refused to play and then still said the club owe him a certain amount of money. That was an interesting one. So yeah, he said we still owed him money. I don't really understand that. Paul said Taylor was mugged off by successive owners, and yeah, there were contract stuff, wasn't there? But then he let his teammates and the fans down. End of. Liam said the other three couldn't get a word in edgeways in the Lyle Taylor show. Isaac says, either way, Lyle was still in contract. It's like me saying to my work, I'm not coming into the office in case I get run over. And I do think if he played those 3 games before the contract was up, I think more people would be forgiven. But there we go. That's where we are. Let's leave it there. Tom, Mark, and Nathan, thanks for your time this evening.
Cheers, lads.
You're welcome.
Cheers, Poops.
Lovely stuff. Right, this has been Charlton Live, the big match preview. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Portsmouth, 10 a.m. on YouTube. Make sure you join us then. But for now, thanks for your time, everyone who's joined us. Don't forget charltonlive.etsy.com for your mugs. Check out our YouTube page and hit subscribe so you never miss another show. Right, I'm Louis Meadows. This is Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. We shall see you again on Sunday.